Finally, it is time. You guys have asked for it. I have seen the movies. I can do it. Today, we are ranking in order the Star Wars films from worst to best. Quick disclosure, I have only seen the movies 1 through 9 plus Solo and Rogue One. I haven't seen any of the Clone Wars movies or the Christmas specials or anything like that. And this is just movies, not the TV shows, not the Book of Boba Fett, not the Mandalorian. I'm currently watching Clone Wars. I haven't seen Rebels yet. Anyway, before we hop into this movie tier ranking list, head over to gfuel.com, use code WyattzWorld, save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products, and now we can rank the movies. Alright, so here we are at the tier list, and this is by far the biggest tier list I have ever had to make because there is, 11 films I'm ranking. I'm gonna have to go through and take everything out that I haven't seen. So, Rebels, Clone Wars, which I'm watching but I haven't seen the movie, and Mando. Leaving us with 11 movies that I have all seen, we can officially begin the ranking. Now, I do think all these movies are good, but compared to certain movies in the franchise, some of them are ass. So, my least favorite movie, I know this is kind of a hot take, it's actually gonna be episode 8. Now, we'll get into 9 very shortly, but the reason I hated 8 is because this entire movie felt like they didn't know what the fuck they wanted to do, and they just went with whatever came to mind first. The movie did have some cool scenes, it had a lot of great visual effects, but it also had ridiculous things like Leia surviving outer space. What the fuck was that? Also, they completely butchered Luke's character. He was gonna turn back on everything he said and kill Kylo Ren at one point because of a fucking dream. Not to mention the ending scene, which was cool for 2 seconds until you find out that Luke is not physically there, meaning that Kylo and him never really got to fight, and Luke dies. If Luke's gonna die, like my friend said, then what in the fuck was the point of sending a hologram there? Send Luke there to fight Kylo and die. Shit like that, man. I didn't think it was a very well-written movie, that's all. Moving on to number 10 in the franchise, my second to least favorite film would absolutely be number 9. I gotta make sure the cover here, these confuse the fuck out of me. I think it's this one. Now, the reason I liked episode 9 more than episode 8, by the way, Snoke's death was fucking stupid too. I completely forgot about that. But I thought 9 had some good closure to the story. I know a lot of people hated Kylo turning good, and then dying as Ben Solo, but I didn't mind that. I love the scene where he takes down the Knights at the end and he helps Rey out. I love the scene where you get to see Han Solo come back and convince him to turn away from the dark side. I think it's great when you get to see Luke talk Rey into going back and fighting Ren, but at the end of the day, it was a cool movie with cool effects and kind of the same shit we had already been seeing. Palpatine came back, and that movie felt like a really, really shitty version of episode 6 because it was essentially the same goddamn thing, other than the cool fight scene I'm talking about. Alright, and moving on to my third least favorite film of the Star Wars franchise. This one might be a hot take as well, but I really didn't like Rogue One all that much. There was no lightsaber combat in it, hardly at all until the end, which we'll get to that scene. But the movie it felt slow to me. It was cool, it was nice to learn about Galen, it was nice to learn what happened in between, films 3 and 4. It was a cool insight on everything that was going on, but other than the last scene where Vader, comes in and just raises absolute hell and kills fucking 30 people in 2 seconds, I don't think there's a lot to really remember out of that movie. You say Rogue One, I think everyone thinks of the Vader scene. I could be wrong on that. I've only seen it one time. My opinion could change. Alright, and moving on to our next movie, we're actually going to the prequels now, and we're going to take episode 2. This will be my 8th favorite movie in the franchise. Now, this movie is not a bad movie. It's a very good one, and there's a lot of very, very important information in this film. It's where you meet Boba Fett and Jango Fett, depending on how you watch the series. It's where you see the relationship between Anakin and Padme, really form. You learn about the clones, you get to see a lot of cool shit, but the movie is so confusing. It feels like it starts and ends like every 15 minutes. They're just onto a new task. However, the last 30 to 40 minutes of this movie is a work of art. You got the whole battle scene where they're chained up like the Roman Empire in that big arena. You get to see Obi-Wan fight Count Dooku, then you get to see Yoda come in and take off the fucking robe, then shit really hits the fan. And like I said, it's not bad, but it's confusing, and for me, as a starter to the franchise, being the second movie I watched, didn't find it that enjoyable. And moving on to our 7th favorite film in the franchise, we got Solo. This movie was really, really good, but it felt like more of a kind of a comedic approach at the franchise, but in a way I like that because I really like Han Solo's character. It shows how he meets Chewie, it shows the relationship form, it shows, well, I don't really want to spoil, I'm already spoiling everything, but it shows how Han basically becomes the smuggler that he is or was, all while keeping you really tied into the story because as much as going on, the objective never really changes, although there is lots of twists and turns. Plus, where you got to see Darth Maul, I shit my pants. I was not expecting that whatsoever. Alright, so moving on to my 6th favorite film in the Star Wars franchise, we got Episode 7. Look, Episode 7 would probably be a top 5, maybe top 3 film if Episodes 8 and 9 didn't exist. I agree with my buddies on that take. If you watch Episode 7 now and you've already seen the end of the other two, then you know what's gonna happen. It really kills it. But this movie at first was so good. The visual effects really took the step up here. Got to see Harrison Ford come back as Han Solo even though he dies. You get to see my man Chewie, you get to meet Rey, you get to meet Finn, you get to meet Poe, you get to meet BB-8. Kylo Ren is in it, Luke is in it. In the end, I should say. I mean, you get to see all these familiar faces. It's really fun to watch. But finishing the story of Star Wars, unfortunately, kind of makes the movie worse than what it actually is. If you haven't seen it yet, don't let me steer you away from it. It's definitely worth a watch. They all are. But watching this masterpiece and knowing that it's going to get completely destroyed by the other two movies, it's sour. And moving on to my 5th favorite movie, we are in the top 5 now. This is a boiling hot take, but man, do I love Episode 1. Episode 1 is fucking awesome. Qui-Gon Jinn, one of my favorite characters of the entire franchise. I know he's only in one movie. I really hope he comes back in the Obi-Wan show, but he was a glorified badass. You get to meet Anakin as a kid. You get to see a young Obi-Wan. You get to see the coolest villain possibly out of any TV show ever or movie ever, Darth fucking Maul. You get the cool ass race scene. That whole movie, to me, I thought was fucking awesome, man. I thought it was really great. And it's also the start of the story if you watch it in the order that I did. Most people started with how they came out, so 4, 5, and 6. No, I started 1 through 9. I got to meet everybody from the beginning here. It is a damn good movie, and if anyone tells you otherwise, tell them to fuck off. Alright, and moving on to my 4th favorite film in the entire franchise. This is where it gets hard. Any movie I say now is elite. None of these movies are bad. Probably gonna go with A New Hope though. So this one takes place right after Rogue One and how many years after Episode 3? I want to say it's like 14 or 15 years apart, but this is where it's about Luke and Anakin has turned into Darth Vader. This is what you would call perfect films. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the special effects definitely take a toll. You're going from 2003 back to 1977 or whatever it was. But the graphics for the time, the story that it tells you, the introduction to the characters, the saber scenes you get to see in it, how you get to meet the characters from these movies and get to see them as their older selves. Some of them, I should say. And it's just amazing. And 3PO, R2-D2, Han Solo, and Chewbacca add non-stop comedy into these films. I'm not talking gut-busting where, you know, it turns the movie into a comedy, but they keep it from such a serious film into kind of a funny aspect that you don't ever want to stop watching them, man. It's seriously such a comfort movie series. Plus, Luke destroying the Death Star at the end is basically the greatest thing ever. It's like Harry Potter catching the golden snitch. And up next, we got my 3rd favorite in the series. That is going to be Revenge of the Sith. Awesome, awesome, awesome movie. This is the film where Anakin turns into Darth Vader. This is how you see it all go down. You see why it happens, you see how it happens, you see when it happens. You get to see one of the greatest lightsaber fights ever at the end when Obi-Wan takes on his young Padawan. You get to see a really fucked up, cynical scene. You really get to see how dark Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader really is. And you get to see how Palpatine really becomes, you know, the physical Sith Lord. One thing about this movie that I'm gonna say though, and my friend has said this to me and a lot of other people agree with it too, I hold Mace Windu accountable for Anakin turning bad. That guy was such a fucking hater. He was such a pussy. He would not include Anakin. He was scared of Anakin. He made him such an outcast that he gave Anakin no choice. Other than, you know, the whole attempt to save fucking Padme and the Sith turning him bad to get the power to save her from giving birth. But if Mace wouldn't have been such a bitch-ass hater, that would have never happened. Fuck you, Samuel L. And up next, we got my 2nd favorite film. That is going to be The Empire Strikes Back. I know that's a lot of people's favorite, and it's not a wrong choice, but I like number 6 more. Anyway, number 5 is outstanding, dude. This is the infamous Luke, I am your father. That's when it happens. Han Solo gets frozen in the ice at the end. By the way, Harrison Ford wanted the character to die then. I didn't know that. Get the awesome scene where Luke trips up the AT-4 or whatever that huge fucking machine is. The part where the Falcon's inside that big beast. Luke also, I believe, meets Yoda in this movie, begins his actual Jedi training, and at the end you get one of the best lightsaber wars in the entire fucking film franchise between Luke and Vader. When people think Star Wars, honestly, they probably think of Episode 5 every single time, and I can't blame them. And finally, my favorite film of them all, Return of the Jedi, Episode 6. The finale of, you know, the original trilogy. This is where Vader turns good. He turns back to basically Anakin. He saves Luke's life. Han Solo comes back, you get to see the Ewok people, which a lot of people fucking hate the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks. You also find out that Leia and Luke are brother and sister in this movie, even though if you watched it in the order that I did, you already knew it, so when they kissed it was even weirder. I don't know, episode 6 to me just felt like the entire time just really good shit in the movie was going on. Plus it does have the best fight scene possibly ever, which is the ending between Luke and Vader #2. And it also holds one of my favorite scenes in the entire film franchise, when Boba Fett shows up for 2 seconds and immediately gets thrown into the Scarlet Pit. It's hilarious. I think Return of the Jedi was the best. That is my entire order of the franchise, and I hope you guys like this video. Alright guys, and that is going to be all for me ranking every Star Wars movie in the franchise that I have seen. I hope you guys liked this movie. Tell me what you did and didn't agree with in the comments below. With all that stuff being said, however, I'm going to hop off and get this shit edited so you guys can watch it on time. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and as always, I will see you in the next video.